And I've brought along some technologies. These are speakers. They've got a lot of weight to them. They generate certain sound qualities. I'm also interested, as well as the fabrics, of exploring these technologies, whether they be digital, as in the sensors where we're generating data, or this idea of the analog. I'm also really interested in old technologies, or in the analog versus the digital. Some of these speakers I've worked on integrating into garment. They have a certain weight, a certain presence on the body, and they generate a certain sound quality, which we have to work with. We have to work with the limitations of the technologies and build those into performative contexts. So a particular character that I developed for Ukiyo was a character who was a mad woman of words, a kind of Kyogen character. She was very much inspired by Eastern theatre, Japanese theatre, and she wasp. Sorry. And she was dressed in a golden gown, and I made her this collar, and her collar came from a whole study of the relationship this particular performer had with her bandonian instrument. And I wanted to take all of the materiality, the physical textures, the properties of that instrument, and begin to place those on her body. I was absolutely overwhelmed by how effortlessly she played this instrument, and yet when I tried to pick it up as an untrained musician, I was really struggling to get it to breathe with me because of its weight. And it made me think about fusing, how bodies are fused and they become something else. So she was becoming, to me, this idea of the instrument person or the instrument woman. She was kind of part instrument, part human, but together with this instrument she made sound. So I wanted her to work together with the garment in the same way. I also wished for the garment to impose certain restrictions on her. So as I say, these are heavy, and there were two placed down her back and they pulled a little bit on her neck. She had these long cables. We wished to make present the cables, not in this instance to work with wireless technologies, but to work with the physical presence of the wires in the space. The wires were cut to a certain distance to allow her, with that knowledge that she had, to move to a certain point before she became kind of pulled back by the presence of these wires, which she became angry with, and she was throwing them into the space, and the sound of the wires was the audio cable, was very much about the whole development of this character. Then out of her mouth were coming these weird words, these kind of, the onomatopoeia. She was just kind of creating various sounds, rolling her tongue, using her body, her physical presence to generate sound. But then also there were these little voices that were coming from her back, and it was this play between where is the sound generated? How is her body generating the sound? Is it coming through the organicness of her, or is it coming through her relationship of the garment and of the knowledge that she has a voice that is relocated in her back for the actual performance of this mad woman? And eventually she removes the collar. She becomes so frustrated, she pulls it off and she lays it down. And then she becomes free, and she can open out the kind of golden gown that she's wearing with the pleats. And the small voice remains as a little fragment, just there, quietly talking away. And this is the kind of idea that the garment can be worn, but it can also be sat or laid there in the space, and it becomes part of the scenography, or it can remain beyond the time that we have the performers present, and people can walk and study and hear. And it draws me to this idea of intimate sound as well, of intimacy with costume, with performer, with our audience members, of getting people to experience on new levels. I'm really interested in that, not to always imagine we do things in the same way, but to actually say, let's try something new, let's ask somebody or invite somebody to experience something differently. And so these things all start with this experimentation of studies of what we have and what we can bring to a space to begin explorations.